Tonight, growing calls for the Speaker's resignation after honoring a man who once fought with the Nazis.
I'm deeply sorry that I have offended many with my gesture and remarks.
A standing ovation in the House of Commons, now an international fiasco, as many ask, how could this have happened? Canadians call on them to beat back wildfires, but who is looking out for those firefighters when they get sick?
The legislation specifically excluded forest firefighters.
And rare access as a First Nation digs for potential unmarked graves.
Not everyone necessarily agreed with excavating. How did you deal with that?
Their message now for others grappling with what to do next.
This is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. Pressure is mounting tonight for the Speaker of the House of Commons to resign. On Friday, Anthony Rota led a standing ovation for a Ukrainian veteran who, it turns out, fought for the Nazis. Rota had invited the man to Parliament to watch Ukraine's president speak. Now he's apologizing for offending so many people and embarrassing the country. But some say that apology is not enough. The hurt runs deep for people across the country and those who were inside the House when this all happened. Catherine Cullen with how Anthony Rota's apology is being received.
Anthony Rota came to try to make amends for a monumental mistake.
I wish to apologize to the House, and I'm deeply sorry that I have offended many with my gesture and remarks.
On Friday, during Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit, the Speaker honored Yaroslav Hunka, a 98-year-old Second World War veteran, from his riding.
He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service.
What Rota says he didn't know, the man he invited Parliament to applaud had been part of a Waffen SS unit under command of the Nazis. Today, Karina Gould, a descendant of Holocaust survivors who posed for a picture with Hunka, was first to respond.
I think this hurt all of us in Parliament. And I'll say that personally, I feel particularly hurt by this.
The hurt irreparable, suggest the NDP and Bloc.
Ultimately, this was an unforgivable error. Regrettably, I must respectfully ask that you step aside.
Conservatives are laying all the blame at the feet of the government.
If that basic level of vetting was not done by the government, that raises serious concerns.
The Speaker's office says it followed procedure, sharing its guest list with Parliament's protocol office, but not the Prime Minister's office. Moscow pounced on the moment. Russia has long used denazifying Ukraine as a pretext for its invasion. A Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson pointed to Canada's applause for Hunka and spoke of the Western world glorifying Nazis.
This is something that is deeply embarrassing to the Parliament of Canada and, by extension, to all Canadians. I think it's going to be really important that all of us push back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation.
Poland's ambassador has asked for a more detailed apology, saying Rota didn't go far enough.
We need to treat this moment as a lesson that in the world of, in the public world, in the world of politics, knowledge, fact-checking, vetting people matters.
It all left Rota trying to referee a heated parliamentary debate about himself.
It was my decision, and I apologize profusely. I cannot tell you how regretful it is.
So, Catherine, when it comes to Anthony Rota's future, where could things go from here?
Well, Adrian, sources have told us he is meeting with the House leaders of the different parties tomorrow, so perhaps that will shed some light on his future. Now, the NDP have said they'd look at procedures to get him out if there was enough support, but the Liberals may not want to take that hit, and the Conservatives want this to be about Justin Trudeau, not to have Rota take the blame. Though it is noteworthy, several Liberal MPs we asked today said whether he stays or goes is up to Rota, which is not exactly a ringing endorsement. As for Yaroslav Hunka's reflections on the international incident his presence provoked, still no comment. Adrian?
All right, Catherine Cullen in Ottawa. So really, how exactly did this happen? What is the process for inviting someone into the House of Commons? Should that process change We delve into that later in the breakdown. And there's more fallout to the Prime Minister's accusation last week that India was linked to the killing of a Sikh leader in British Columbia. As Lindsay Duncombe shows us now, protesters gathered in several Canadian cities to send a message to New Delhi.
For Sikh activists, new urgency for a familiar cause. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the man who used to lead protests like this, now memorialized on posters. His death, the reason for the collapse of relations between India and Canada.
We're here standing in his legacy and to tell the Indian state today that this type of act of terror against Canada's sovereignty, against a Canadian citizen, the Sikhs will never accept.
It's been a week since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said there are credible allegations India was potentially involved in Nijjar's death. The activist for an independent Sikh state was gunned down outside a Surrey Gurdwara in June. India viewed him as a terrorist. To the dozens of protesters here, he was a hero.
I call out all the Indian people, all the Hindu brothers, please go watch other newsies. Don't get your brain washed by the Indian media.
There are signs that some people are worried at this protest. They don't want to be identified. They're covering their faces. There was a warning sent out to participants saying to beware of agitators that might come and spark violence. We haven't seen any evidence of that.
Anger at India was echoed at protests in Toronto and Ottawa.
And we will not stop until Punjab is liberated from India.
Not all Canadian Sikhs share that view, though. The idea of an independent state divides the community, and some of the most powerful voices for it are in Canada, says this professor.
Across the diaspora, only in Canada is it a live and visible and powerful issue.
Today's protests were loud, but not large. Dozens in each city. They want to see a public inquiry into Nijjar's death. Calls they say they intend to continue. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
The RCMP in Quebec have now torn down the last building at the unofficial border crossing at Roxham Road after it was essentially closed earlier this year. Alison Northcott now with what's happened to asylum seekers since then and the concerns that remain.
After 6 years, the RCMP is taking down its operations at Roxham Road, where more than 100,000 people have entered the country to seek asylum.
The number of migrants that crosses through Roxham has dwindled, and our presence here is no longer necessary.
Despite signs at Roxham Road warning it's illegal to cross, for years people did it anyway because of a loophole in the Safe Third Country Agreement, which prevents people from claiming asylum in Canada at regular crossings if they landed in the U.S. first. But earlier this year, the rules changed, essentially closing this pathway into Canada.
For my citizen who lives near those installations, they will get back their calm.
Now, the number of people trying to cross irregularly has dropped, but a growing number are seeking asylum at airports.
There are different people. These are people who have the means for air travel, who've been able to get visas to come to Canada.
We do welcome baskets when they first come in.
Refugee organizations say their services are still in high demand.
Our goal is to ensure that we maintain Canada as a safe haven for people who are facing persecution. That's the way we approach it. We don't feel that Canada is living up to that standard by creating deterrent policies.
Fritznell tried to go across back to the States.
France Andre worked with the family of Fritznell Richard, who died trying to cross the border illegally from Canada into the U.S. last winter. Andre worries those who can't cross at Roxham Road will take other dangerous risks.
This is where it's worrisome. They will be going through ways that is unsafe.
The federal government says the changes affecting Roxham Road were meant to deter irregular border crossings and says the global migrant crisis requires solutions from all levels of government. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
A mass exit is underway tonight in a disputed region of Azerbaijan. Nagorno-Karabakh is home to some 120,000 ethnic Armenians. Briar Stewart now with why thousands have fled, with more expected to follow.
Along the road out of Nagorno-Karabakh, the exodus continues as thousands seek refuge in Armenia. I want to cry right now as I speak, this mother says, because I left everything. And in the middle of the humanitarian crisis, local officials say an explosion at a petrol station wounded at least 200 people as they lined up for fuel before trying to leave the long-disputed region. People were fleeing in lorries, buses and cars, everything they could. Nagorno-Karabakh is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan. Last week, that country launched what it called an anti-terrorism operation. Armenia says more than 200 people were killed in 24 hours of fighting before it ended in a ceasefire. Armenia considers this part of ethnic cleansing, something Azerbaijan denies. These pictures were taken near the checkpoint by an Armenian Canadian.
Virtually every single person I spoke to tells me that they feel ripped away from their land because this is where their parents are buried, their grandparents.
Around 2,000 Russian peacekeepers are stationed in Nagorno-Karabakh as part of a deal with Armenia, but that relationship has soured. Armenia's president blamed Russia for not doing more to avert the crisis. Moscow fired back, accusing Armenia of trying to cozy up to the West. Meanwhile, Turkey's president is backing Azerbaijan.
All eyes should be on the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Both Turkey and Russia are trying to keep the West out.
U.S. officials are now in Armenia to talk about support for the tens of thousands of people who they believe will be forced to flee their homes. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
3 people have died and 3 others were taken to hospital after a fishing boat sank in the Gulf of St. Lawrence early Monday morning. It went down overnight about 20 nautical miles offshore near the community of La Tabatière, Quebec, between Quebec's lower North Shore and Newfoundland. The cause is still unknown. In just over a week now, Manitobans will go to the polls to choose their next premier. Cameron McIntosh looks at the big issues in the final stretch of the campaign.
Is everyone having fun yet? Isn't this great?
Through the grind of an election, Heather Stephenson has been in an uphill fight as one of Canada's least popular premiers, trying to fend off her challengers.
The only poll that matters is on election day.
Stephenson took over as premier 2 years ago as the Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party under Brian Pallister lost popularity through COVID. A pre-election spending blitz is being followed up with promises of tax cuts.
We are the only party taking affordability seriously.
How do you do? I'm Wab Canoe.
Wab Canoe, a former journalist and Indigenous activist, is the NDP leader, running a campaign focused mostly on health reform.
We're going to fix healthcare. We're going to fix your healthcare. We're going to invest in staffing up the healthcare system.
Canoe is sticking mostly to that message, as not-so-subtle conservative messaging targets criminal charges in his past, for which he's been pardoned. Canoe says he's overcome addiction and will be tough on drugs and crime.
My past is the reason that I'm running.
Polls show center voters moving towards him, particularly in Winnipeg, which has the most seats.
I think it's still the NDP's election to lose.
In the final days, Stephenson is leaning into issues Conservatives are getting traction on nationally: crime, parental rights in schools, and fighting the federal carbon tax. If she wins, she would be the first female party leader in Manitoba to win a provincial election.
We're fighting to keep more of your hard-earned money in your pockets.
If Canoe wins, he would be the first First Nations premier of a Canadian province.
My goal is not to be the First Nations Premier of Manitoba. My goal is to be the best Premier of Manitoba.
Now, if history is any guide, Manitoba governments tend to have a shelf life of about 2 terms, in a province where governments tend to be voted out rather than voted in. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The union representing Canadian auto workers will start negotiations with General Motors tomorrow. This comes after Unifor narrowly ratified a 3-year agreement with Ford over the weekend that included a 10% wage increase in the first year alone. That agreement is expected to be the basis of talks with GM. Another major labor dispute appears to be nearing an end after a tentative deal between Hollywood writers and the big studios. Paul Hunter tells us what's next for the industry, viewers, and what could still complicate it all.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
It's long been the stuff of sci-fi films and TV shows. Here, the artificially intelligent computer HAL rebuffing the mere human in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
You want to see something cool?
And here, an AI creature stars as a humanoid robot. But what if in the real world, the writers and actors making such movies were themselves threatened by AI writing and acting? Demanding protections against that was a key factor, sending 11,000 screenwriters and then actors to the picket lines nearly 5 months ago. Now, the writers have a tentative deal described as exceptional, though no details are public.
I just know that the Guild is very excited, and the details are, forthcoming, but we're all excited. I think the sentiment was that if we couldn't come to an agreement, if we couldn't get a fair deal, the future of screenwriting as a career was really going to go away.
Another key issue, all those new streaming services and compensation from that new, growing, lucrative world. The writers pushed back on the rise of AI and other tech, and it seems they won.
I think there's been a clear message sent here, which is that the creative force is not going to bow to these tools and simply go quietly into the good night.
What does it all mean for viewers? Well, late-night talk shows should be back soon. But as for everything else, likely a bit longer. The actors, some 65,000 of them, remain on strike, though the writers' deal is a signal they too may soon have a happy ending. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Italian movie star Sofia Loren is recovering from surgery after a fall in her home in Switzerland. The 89-year-old was taken to hospital on Sunday with serious fractures to her hip and femur. The surgery reportedly went well. She's now said to be resting. In 1961, Sofia Loren became the first person to win an Oscar for a foreign language role. As Canada goes through its worst wildfire season on record, there are concerns about the serious health risks facing those who fight the flames.
He said, nobody should have to go through this.
The fight for compensation, next. Plus, growing calls for the Speaker of the House to step down.
I'm deeply sorry that I've offended many with my gesture and remarks.
The embarrassing debacle and the questions about how it could have happened. And later.
Maya Turner has just made history.
The kick that changed the game.
I had tears in my eyes. I did.
We are back in 2 minutes. Parts of British Columbia are getting battered with heavy rain and high winds. In Vancouver, the Lionsgate Bridge was closed after this. A piece of metal from the roof of a commercial vehicle blew onto a light fixture hanging above the lanes. It took crews about an hour to remove it safely. Luckily, no one was hurt. Well, BC is among the provinces still feeling the effects of an unprecedented wildfire season, where increasingly wildfire fighters are relied upon to protect communities. But as Katie Nicholson shows us, now there are calls to better care for many of those firefighters once the smoke clears.
This one's 2017.
Kim LeBlanc lugs heavy binders from a decade-long fight to get compensation for her husband. Tom LeBlanc fought wildfires for 35 years.
He loved it. He was like a Dalmatian. He'd sit on the front seat of that fire truck and wait for the call.
But when he developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, he found out he wasn't covered by the same legislation as other firefighters in Ontario.
And the legislation specifically excluded forest firefighters.
Across Canada, if municipal firefighters develop cancers associated with the job, they're covered by presumptive legislation, making it easier to get compensation. But outside of BC, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Quebec, wildfire fighters are excluded from that legislation. Tom LeBlanc died in 2010. Kim promised him she'd keep fighting.
He said, nobody should have to go through this. This is his medical record.
In 2018, the Workers' Compensation Board finally agreed Tom's work was a probable, significant contributing factor in his illness.
I always expected to be woohoo and throw a party. And I was not. It was awful. It's never going to bring them back.
You do breathe a lot of smoke and eat a lot of ash.
Former wildfire fighter Simon Chateauvert says he had nowhere to turn when he lost a kidney to cancer, something that would have been covered if he were an urban firefighter.
You know, it was my missing a kidney because of firefighting.
And as the evidence that wildfire smoke is dangerous grows, change is coming.
It's just been so in-your-face obvious in recent years that this particular subset of firefighters is facing such severe threats that it can't be ignored.
That's Tom sitting there.
For families who've had to battle for coverage, this message to governments.
Stand up, put your big boy pants on, and let's see how we fix this.
So others don't have to go through what her family did. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Right now, new research is looking at ways to catch more cancers while they are still treatable or even before they happen.
I think we have the chance to actually eliminate a cancer.
Why a growing emphasis on self-screening could save lives. Plus, the controversy engulfing the Speaker of the House.
Ultimately, this was an unforgivable error.
The growing fallout and how Russia is using this for its own purposes. Plus, the painful search for truth on a Manitoba First Nation.
We needed to find out for sure if those anomalies were human remains.
Wamish Hamilton gets a rare look at an excavation. The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. Canada has approved an Ebola vaccine for adults who are exposed to the virus. The single dose is for people 18 and older who aren't pregnant and otherwise healthy. The Public Health Agency of Canada says the risk of exposure in this country remains low. Canadian doctors are calling for women to be offered a take-home test that can screen for cervical cancer. As Christine Birak tells us, not only could it help with early detection, but it could also help more women access the health care they need.
It's an awkward test that checks for cancer, and doctors say too many women are avoiding it.
For many people, the PAP is uncomfortable, it's a pain, but there are some people where it is a real barrier. They're not going to get testing done. And then we insert it.
A PAP test sweeps up cells inside the cervix to test them for cancer. Data shows, among others, women who are Black, disabled, or suffered sexual trauma are less likely to get a PAP. Now, a new guideline published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal makes 16 recommendations, including offer self-testing.
Once I've collected my sample,
so women can screen themselves for HPV, the virus that causes cervical cancer.
People are recognizing they can do this, they're capable of it. So let's take this one step further, and now let's provide people with the option to do their own vaginal sample.
We've delivered over 10,000 kits, and we've got lots of experience now on acceptability.
Only British Columbia offers self-testing kits. They include a swab and test tube that can be mailed in for analysis. In Australia, all women now have the choice to self-collect their own cervical screening test sample. Evidence shows a self-collected sample is just as accurate at detecting HPV as a sample taken by a doctor. Experts say screening more women for HPV alongside vaccines could be a game changer.
I think we have the chance to actually eliminate a cancer. I mean, that is just tremendous.
I think that for women, it's a really, really good news. The sad part of it is that we've been waiting for years.
She'd like to see self-testing kits made available in pharmacies across the country. The new guidelines also recommend talking to patients about colorectal cancer at age 45 instead of 50. The goal here is to get more people into screening sooner so they can detect cancers earlier or even prevent them altogether. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
Now let's take a deeper look at the story shaping our world. A First Nation has excavated ground near a former residential school, and what they learned is important to the whole country. But first, the federal government under fire. This is the breakdown. The answers you're looking for as Canada's cheers for a veteran of a Nazi unit echo around the world. Russia is pouncing on this epic blunder, and so is the opposition.
You have to question if it's just more incompetence.
How on earth did no one see this would look so bad? So here's senior parliamentary reporter JP Tasker to break down what went wrong, the damage that has followed. So JP, we saw the Conservatives say, hey, listen, it doesn't take more than a simple internet search to figure out this man's history. So what do you know about how precisely it came to be that he was in the House of Commons chambers?
Yeah, House Speaker Anthony Rota is taking full responsibility for this invite. He says he did invite Yaroslav Hunka personally to be on hand for those festivities on Friday when Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, was delivering his address to Parliament. This is someone who was known to the Speaker before these events. He's someone who has been in the riding. He lives in the Speaker's constituency. He lives in North Bay. He's been a feature at Ukraine's solidarity events for the last number of months. He's been profiled in local media. Of course, they never mentioned that he was a member of the 1st Galician Division, an outfit that was tied to the SS and Nazi Germany. That has not been something that has been part of the profiles of this man until now. But of course, Anthony Rota giving him big applause, celebrating him on Friday. And this was not just an invitation. Let's be clear about that, Adrian. It's not just like he was in the gallery up above looking down on the events that were unfolding. He was actually singled out by the Speaker, and he was called a hero, a Canadian hero, by Anthony Rota, and the Speaker prompted a standing ovation for him. So he really got a hero's welcome in Canada's Parliament, and now we know more really about this man and his past and his ties to Nazi Germany.
So is that all that it takes, JP, just an invitation from the Speaker? Like, what precisely is the procedure that lets him be in there?
Yeah, so during these events, there are hundreds of people that are gathered on hand, and the Speaker gets a certain number of seats that are allocated to him. He can pick who he wants to be on hand for something like this. And essentially, he draws up his guest list. He gives it to the Parliamentary Protocol Office. They send out the invitations to people who are on that list. The people who respond say they can come. Those names go to corporate security and the Sergeant-at-Arms, the person in Parliament Hill who protects MPs and senators and people like us in the Parliamentary Press Gallery. They review that list. They search those names through police databases to make sure there's no security threat. But they're not doing a Google search like the Conservative leader suggested today. They're not doing a political vetting. There's no issues manager that is looking over their shoulder to see if there's someone who may be problematic, someone who may be embarrassing to the government or the Speaker or the Prime Minister or Mr. Zelensky himself. They're not doing that kind of granular details. Some people today suggesting that maybe they should, because there really is only hundreds of people on hand. There's not thousands of people. It wouldn't be all that arduous to do a little more a careful vet of some of the people that are within 10, 12, 15 feet of world leaders like Zelensky, who's in the throes of a battle right now, who's in the throes of a war and is facing many threats to his life. Maybe something like that should happen.
So in all likelihood, there will then be some sort of change in procedure, but I suppose a lot of the damage has already been done. I want to read you a tweet that comes from the Russian embassy today. It says, Canadian Parliament gives a standing ovation to the Nazi SS butcher, yet another Trudeau regime's insults to the memory of Canada's sons and daughters who fought Nazism in the Second World War. So how is this moment being used by the Russian government, Russian media?
Yeah, Russian propagandists have pounced on this. Of course they have. Some experts we spoke to today say this was a gift to the Russian government. This really does fuel the false narrative that Vladimir Putin has been pushing since the beginning of this war, that the conflict in Ukraine is really about rooting out Nazis. And here we have Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister, Volodymyr Zelensky applauding a man who was part of an SS unit in the Second World War. They're going to clip that. They're going to disseminate that all over state broadcasts run by outfits like Russia Today. Twitter is alight with all these details. That's gold. That's pure gold. They have delivered a massive victory, really, to the propaganda machine.
All right, JP Tasker in Ottawa, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, behind the scenes of a difficult excavation near the site of a former residential school.
You have a history here that needs to be told, that needs to be shared. People need to know the truth.
A First Nation looked for answers, what their search revealed. Next. Your exclusive look at a wrenching search for the truth.
If those anomalies were human remains.
A Manitoba First Nation hired experts to probe the ground near a residential school site. And dig for hard proof.
We do have quite a few people that come and say, I hope they don't find anything.
The whole country has a stake in this. Now, Pine Creek First Nation was one of the first to actually excavate. Walmish Hamilton breaks down why that step was needed.
In western Manitoba, they're sifting through fragments of a difficult history. This archaeological team is poring over dirt from the bowels of an old church. It was next door to a residential school that existed here for almost 80 years.
So these are called shaker screens.
The Pine Creek First Nation hired forensic anthropologist Emily Holland and her crew from Brandon University to conduct this project.
One thing about doing this work in any kind of archaeological context is to be thorough and systematic, right? So by the time you're done, you can say, you looked at everything that was in here.
They're among the first in Canada to dig at the site of a former residential school. What they find could have profound implications for other First Nations considering their own excavations. Tell me where it is we're going and what's down there.
Well, right now we're going to go into the basement of Our Lady of Seven Sorrows Church in Pine Creek First Nation. And they have identified 14 different GPR reflections in here, and we're in the process of excavating them. Please go ahead. Watch the first step.
We've been given special access to the basement turned excavation site. Survivors told stories of horrors here, of bodies buried. Over the past month, the team has dug 14 holes.
So there are 14 reflections identified in this basement. And when we were making the plans for doing this work, we had to plan as though we were going to find 14 graves with 14 people.
Last year, Pine Creek was one of many First Nations across Canada to conduct a ground-penetrating radar survey, or GPR. They hired a company with drones and other equipment to scan the ground near the church and under it. In the basement, they detected 14 what are called reflections, or anomalies. In the surrounding fields, there were dozens more.
There's 31 out here. There's a few here, and then they're up all in a row over there in the fields.
Brenda Catchaway is a third-generation survivor of the school. She's helped organize the searches. She remembers the anxiety and anger here after the initial findings.
There were some community members that wanted to just go ahead and go in the church basement and start digging themselves. And, we told them, well, you can't do that. It's got to be done by experts. It's got to be like, what if we damage any findings that we come upon if it's human remains? And I sensed the urgency that we needed to find out for sure if those anomalies were human remains.
Taking that step of actually deciding to dig, of trying to confirm what those anomalies are, led down a tough road. Many in the community wanted to leave the past in the past. Then there were other First Nations that had to be consulted because their children also attended the school here.
We began with community engagements after the 215 announced in Kamloops. Our elders right away said, we have a history here that needs to be told, that needs to be shared. People need to know the truth.
Chief Derek Niepenak is the son of a survivor, a grandson and a great-grandson of a survivor. The limbs of his family tree are weighed down by hard memories of this school. This huge decision was left for him to steer.
But this has been very, very difficult for me as a boy from this community. It's not been easy, and what makes it even more difficult is that because my heart is exposed to the process, I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable to the criticisms of those who do not want to go this way.
There were different perspectives about this issue during your consultations, and not everyone necessarily agreed with excavating. How did you deal with that? Must have been tricky.
It was tricky. It was difficult. There's people who would rather have left things alone completely. At the same time, I think the vocal majority in the room in the community engagements wanted certainty. They wanted to find the truth. They wanted people held accountable, and to that end, we prioritized that voice.
On top of those divisions were questions about the reliability of the technology that led them to dig. Would the GPR survey lead to the discovery of human remains? Or would the excavation come up empty? And what would that mean?
And then I'll give you a point at 15.
Our crew watched as they completed their search in the basement. The next morning, the community gathered for a ceremony to learn what they had found.
So with 70 plus anomalies, we're left to wonder, are any of those burials of our ancestors?
Emotions were close to the surface when Chief Nepack made the announcement.
And when they did those 14 digs, they did not find any evidence of human remains underneath the church. So of those 14, 0 of those excavations reveal anything looking like human remains.
So how do people here feel? Some said the team must have dug in the wrong spots. The chief worried it could affect other First Nations in their search for the truth. But he says the dig was still the right choice.
I'm absolutely okay to be able to say, we did identify reflections there. Those reflections turned out not to be human remains. So I would ask every single person out there who is receiving information from communities that are doing, science, they're doing the scientific research to identify these reflections and then putting out numbers. Be very cautious. Don't stop there. Take the next steps you need to, but do not let the ground penetrating radar numbers be the conclusive evidence that you need to arrive at your healing pathway.
In this, you can see there are 2 giant rocks in the base. So this is the floor of the reflection. It's completely excavated.
For the team from Brandon, the excavation points to an important discovery. The GPR technology did what it's supposed to. It detected differences in the soil. They found old nails, glass, large rocks,
This dark layer here.
layers of ash, perhaps debris from a fire decades ago.
There's some ceramic. There's a pattern on it.
If it's not human remains, what does that mean now?
For the context of this work?
Yes.
I think, first of all, we always have to remember that GPR cannot tell us for sure that it's a grave or that the reflection contains human remains. It's just beyond the technology. The only way to ever understand what's in a reflection is to excavate.
But, she stresses, this search was not a clear example of what to expect as other communities continue to investigate.
This church basement, though, is a really unique situation. It's not something where I think you can draw direct parallels between the work here or even the reflections that have been identified outside of the church. And certainly you can't draw direct parallels to any other work that's going on in these kinds of investigations in Canada.
With the results disclosed, the community was welcomed into the basement to see the work for the first time. Inside, tears from some survivors, but mixed with other sentiments. How do you feel that there's been no human remains found?
I'm happy that there's no human remains found. And we do have quite a few people that come and say, I hope they don't find anything, right? Because then, I don't know, maybe it's a sense of relief. I've been thinking already this last couple weeks, I've been thinking about how are we going to get this word out so that it doesn't paint us with a negative a negative picture for people to say, we told you there wouldn't be anything there.
Right.
But we needed to do it so that a lot of our people can begin that process of healing. I feel like, yeah, this is just one phase, so we need to still continue.
Well, Mish, Brenda's last thoughts there are really nuanced. I mean, relieved not to see human remains because it's terrible, but also concerned that people will take this moment and say, see, we told you so. We told you there would be nothing there. Can we talk about that? What's the conversation there?
So there was some concern in the community about the I told you so's. And we have seen media reports pointing to the results in Pine Creek as an example of some larger problem with investigations across Canada at other sites. The chief said he knows the results of this are now being shared with the world and with other First Nations. And as we heard in our story, he wanted the results not to be considered as a guide, but as a lesson to other First Nations communities. I'd call it Indigenous Ground Penetrating Radar 101. Don't let ground penetrating radar be your sole guide. But we do know the remains of children from residential schools have already been found in the US. I visited the Rosebud First Nation in South Dakota, where the remains of 6 children were repatriated from Pennsylvania. So yes, it was an American residential school, but these were not anomalies or reflections.
So, Wamish, very briefly, if we can, what's your sense about other First Nation communities? What happens now?
It's all been pretty quiet, but here in BC, the Williams Lake First Nation bought the land that a local residential school once sat on in their territory, and where dozens of anomalies have also been identified. Now that the property is protected, and they are interested in excavating. Meanwhile, in Pine Creek, there are still more than 57 anomalies outside the church in the field, but the community has not made a decision whether or not they're going to excavate.
All right, Wamish Hamilton, thank you for your reporting.
Thank you.
A reminder, anyone affected by residential schools can get emotional support and crisis referral services at any time. Just call 1-866-925-4419. Well, coming up after the break, some good news on the gridiron in Manitoba this weekend.
Snap is good. The hold is good. Maya Turner has just made history.
How a young woman is scoring points and rewriting the record books in our moment. There she is. When Maya Turner took the field for the University of Manitoba football team on Saturday, she made history as the first ever female to play at the Canadian university level. But she didn't stop there. She also became the first female player to record a point, and she kicked the game-winning field goal in double overtime. No big deal. Her fairy tale debut is our moment.
Snap is good. The hold is good. Maya Turner has just made history.
After it went in, it was like first a sense of relief, and then it was just a lot of excitement and adrenaline.
Congratulations, Maya Turner, becoming the first female in the history of U Sports football to record a point in a regular season game.
When she hit that, I went to her on the sidelines. I had tears in my eyes, and I said, I'm telling you this both as head coach of a university football team and as the father of a daughter. You've accomplished something great today.
I hadn't gotten anything really like that from a coach ever, so that was a really special moment for me as well.
Can she go 2 for 2?
And then
it's up.
The field goal that I kicked in double overtime ended up being the game winner.
Game on the strength of Maya Turner.
If you're determined enough, you can make it happen.
You go, Maya. So her team, of course, gave her the team ball. And then the CFL called and said, look, we'd like something of yours. And then she said, yeah, maybe at the end of the season, I'll give you the cleats or something, but not the ball. The ball is mine. Of course it is. For all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app. Subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.